This is a replay of a previous episode. Thank you very much for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 65. Today we're going to be talking about your Lightroom editing flow. How do you select your best photos? How do you import them into Lightroom, make them work? What really works best for you? Thank you so much. My name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And of course, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show. You're going to find show notes are going to be available for this episode at williambeem.com/episode 65. There's a transcript of the show there for free. And of course, you can find links to subscribe there, or you can check out all of our episodes in the past at our dedicated player at photoflunky.com. Before we get started, I also want to tell you, I've got a free ebook for you called Creative Portraits. It kind of goes over the emotional and visual and artistic side of portrait photography rather than the technical side. It is free. It's available for you. You can download it at williambeem.com/freebook. Or if you're on the run, you got your mobile phone with you, not a problem. Go ahead and send a text message, CP book, to 33444. You'll get a response and it'll ask you for your email address. You just type in the email address where you want the book sent to you, and it'll send the PDF off once you send it in. So that is text CP book to 33444. Today, we're going to be talking about Lightroom editing, and we're not talking about post-processing when we talk about editing. This is kind of like after you've gone out and you've done your shoot, how do you cull through your photos and pick your winners from your losers, and which ones really are, what's your process for going through and selecting your best photos? Lee and I have different ways of doing this. Both of them work for us, and maybe one of them will work for you, or maybe you'll get an idea of your own. But
yes,
Lee, since yours is different from mine, and I guess probably what's been considered traditional way of doing it, why don't you describe how after you've shot your photos and you're ready with your card, how do you get your best photos taken into Lightroom?
I'm pretty quick to get my stuff into Lightroom. Once I've taken a set of photos, if I don't get them into Lightroom in about a week, I'm probably never going to look at them again. So I get them up preferably the same day. I have a look through them before I even import them. There's some of them that I can tell I'm not going to bother about. And that would include things that are duplicates that look very similar, something with obvious blur or something that I know I'm not going to care to edit.
And I think that makes sense. Like there's something that it's just a failed photo overall. You don't even want to bring it in.
I don't import all, ever.
Ever?
Ever.
You used to?
Actually, no, I don't think I did. I'd never select all and just bring them in. I would maybe select all and then deselect some if most of them looked good. But usually for me, if I've got 100 photos, I know that I'm only going to even be looking at maybe 50, if that.
Okay. You've got the card. Are you not deleting in the camera, are you?
No.
Okay, so you got your card, you plug it into the laptop, and you're sorting them, I guess, in the input window in Lightroom?
Yes.
So you're not importing all and then making your edits.
Nope.
Before you ever import, you're looking at, was it just a thumbnail, or do you ever see a full-size preview?
Well, you could know pretty much the thumbnail, but I tend to enlarge the thumbnail because you can adjust the size of the thumbnail in Lightroom for that. So I tend to have it a little bit bigger for that part of the process, especially if you've got a lot that are similar, because you don't want to get the wrong one. And if I'm not sure, then I'll put them all in. And once I've got them in the full screen Lightroom develop mode, I start to remove them from the library if I know that they're not going to work.
How did you get into this workflow?
I don't really know. I guess I'm lazy. I don't like spending time on stuff that's surplus to requirements. I tend to be pretty quick to edit a photo. If I'm going to spend 15 minutes working on a photo, to me, it's not worth keeping in the first place. Now, that's not to say that if you spend 15 minutes, your photo wasn't good. It's just the way that I process things. I tend to do very light edits on mine.
You're only bringing in the ones that you think that you're going to want to do post-processing on.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to post-process it, you're not going to use it elsewhere. And you've got to make that decision right then and there. It's not like, I'll bring this in and then maybe I'll go back later and look and say, oh, maybe I could use that photo.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily, unless I've got a batch where I've chosen to process all or most of them, when I've imported, I tend not to do the backup to the catalog. I will only back up the ones that I want. So I'll if there are a lot of things that are dead and, say for example, that I import 25 of them and I end up processing 3, I don't bother to back them up.
You made your choice at import. And
I do.
Do you ever have something like, well, maybe I'll use that and I'll import it? Or
Oh, yes. Oh,
okay.
yes. If I'm not sure, if I think it might have potential, I import it.
Okay.
But I can usually tell within the first 20 seconds of working on something in the develop module whether or not I'm going to complete it. And I just kind of revert to original so it doesn't show anything, because that way I know that I'm going to delete it afterwards.
Is that because of the workflow, you don't want to have it in your way, or because of space on your hard drive, or
Actually, that's a good question. It is both. Generally, I like to work on a clean desk, and that goes into my laptop as well. So I don't want stuff kind of cluttering up my workflow. If I'm not going to be using it, I want it out of the way. I want to focus on what's in front of me.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because I've done it the opposite way. In my case, I'll plug the card in and I will just dump everything, and then I'll review it on the computer. Now, obvious errors, like you said, blurry photos, a picture of my ankle because my butt hit the shutter or something along that line, those are going to get rejected right away.
Yeah.
But a lot of things I will leave until later. When I need a photo, then I'll go back and look in that category. So I'll sort things by travel, by portrait.
Yeah.
And then, some things maybe by family or whatever it is.
Yes.
But I'll also do keywording at the time for everything. So if I
do that, yes.
If I know that, and this is an example we always use, we went out to Walt Disney World. If I import a bunch of photos that were from Walt Disney World or from Magic Kingdom, just stuff that's generic to the day, I'll import them and keyword tag them that way. Then later on, I'll go and look through them and I'll say, okay, this is specifically Cinderella Castle. This is Splash Mountain, or whatever detail that goes with it. But I may not process them right away. And that means I've got a bunch of photos there that are probably some good and some crap that are still keyworded. And then when I need a photo for a particular thing, then I'll go search, and I'll do a query based on my tags and keywords, and I'll come up and then I'll choose my winners. But that means I've got a lot of stuff out there that I sort through that hasn't been picked and may never be picked.
I see. I do mine the other way around. Once I've processed the ones that I click to select before I export them, that's when I put in the keywords. So the only ones with the tags and keywords are the ones that are already going to be saved.
See, in my workflow, after I've chosen them, it's like I'll go in through, and maybe I'm looking through them, and I'll use the pick flag, and I'll just, hit flag, flag, and flag. Like, these are potential ones. And once I've processed it in a way, I've done my post-processing, and I know that this is a finished photo, then I'll mark that with green is, finished, and I want to share this. Blue is something that I think is worth portfolio. And I'll also use the star rating of 4 and 5 for the winners that way. I don't think I need to use the stars. I mean, people have got all sorts of things with using stars, and it's just, I don't know. It's you don't want a photo that's a 1 or a 2. So everything's either nothing or it's a 4 or a 5.
If it's a 1 or a 2, why have you got it?
I know.
The thing is, I'm laughing because I don't use stars. But I'm different to you. The only time I use a flag is the stuff, it's kind of like the crap that's going to go, because it just makes me easy to select. It makes it easy for me to select those. So I don't use flags for the good stuff. I actually use flags for the trash.
I do it the other way. Well, first off, you can flag something as rejected. You can just hit the letter R and Lightroom will mark as rejected. But I use colors. So I had this workflow. When I imported everything, it would come in as yellow or orange, depending, because I started with aperture when I built this color workflow, and things are slightly different because the colors aren't quite the same. I would go through with, I think when in aperture it was orange, and then it would go from yellow, as a work in progress. So if it's orange, it was like either something I could work on or something I'd reject. And that was why orange, because yellow is a work in progress. Orange is, I haven't reviewed it yet.
Got it.
Because the other side of it is red would be rejected. I mark anything as red, it's rejected. If orange just means I haven't even looked at it yet, or I haven't evaluated it. Yeah. So that way, every time I import something, I know the state of it based off of that color. And that's my workflow process. So it was orange, was haven't seen it. If it's rejected, it's red. And even though the Lightroom has a rejected thing, I found it easier just to hit the number for red, because then I can go do a quick sort on all of them, because it fits with my mind's workflow. Since orange is between, yellow and red. Yellow, okay, I'm going to work on this.
Traffic light system, really.
It really was a traffic light system. Green is good. Green is finished.
Yeah. When you got to stop.
Red is not rejected. Happy. Yeah. And then the blue one, like I said, blue is, like that's your blue ribbon winner. That is your portfolio candidate. Yes. And those will change depending upon what I'm shooting and, what I think goes in my portfolio at this time. But green is always there for finished. And pick was kind of, it was a quick and easy way to say, yeah, I think I haven't started working on it, but I think this is a good candidate. So if it's orange with a pick flag, then it's like, this is something I want to process at some point.
Yes.
And it worked for me. It was very easy. Like you said, a traffic light kind of scenario. And the colors in Lightroom threw me off a little bit when I switched over from aperture. But, it's like purple. What are you going to do with a purple flag?
I like purple. I'd find a use for it. Purple would probably be a favorite for me.
All right. So purple could be a favorite for you. And it doesn't really matter what colors you use. I use like traffic lights, but so long as it makes sense to you, the colors kind of identified where that photo is in my workflow process.
Yeah.
And red is like, good, it's gone. So if I'm moving through looking at photos that I want to potentially edit, I've got my fingers kind of hovering over the numbers, like, is this red or is this a pick or is this yellow? When I start editing it, it's yellow, but it's like, it's either going to be a pick or it's going to be a red.
Yeah.
And then I can easily kind of sort through those later on, because I might want to identify the photos in culling first, but not necessarily process it right away.
Okay. See, yeah, we've got very different workflows. I deal with it now, and because I don't recall. There have been a few times that I've gone back to things, and there've been a few times where I've got lucky, where I've looked at something that maybe got overlooked, and I think, well, why didn't I do anything with this? It's still here, and then I'll bring it in. And some of these have turned out to be my most popular posted photos, but they're not my favorite photos. For some reason, they just resonate with other people.
Well, that goes back to, what's the purpose of your photo? It's like, is it your favorite or is it serving some other purpose? And I found that the ones that I choose that are serving a purpose resonate better with people than the ones that are maybe my favorite. I've got a photo of a portrait photo that I really love of a model at the Acre. And you remember the model, her name was Summers. She's the one that was...
She's one of my favorites.
Oh, she's a beautiful girl. But the problem with the photo is she's in a kind of like a cinder block building, and there's a big wide open window, and she's on top of the bar, and she's looking out, and she's got this wonderful window light kind of coming in on her. That part I really love. But behind her, for reasons I can't understand, one of the cinder blocks is missing in the building.
Oh.
And there's this bright white spot with a light coming in there that really ruins kind of the whole image.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is one, I really love all of this stuff, but because of that, I can't put that out there to show. It's just because, why did I take that photo with that gaping hole in the building?
Sometimes the reality is you can look for things and check your background. Sometimes you just don't see things in the flow of it when you're shooting pictures.
Well, I did recompose later on and get other shots, but I didn't get the same expression out of her that I got in that shot.
Yeah.
The light, the expression, the direction of her face, everything that she did was perfect in that shot. And that was the one where I screwed up and had that big hole in the composition. Mm. So it happens. And how do you mark that? It's never going to be a portfolio shot, but it might be something I keep for myself. And it is.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with keeping photos for yourself. I'm just saying that because most of my photos are for me.
You're using a lot of your photos for social media these days.
I am, yes. But I'm a little bit more laid back about that, because people on social media, my audience, are not photographers.
No.
They are looking for the message in the photo and the elements in the photo to which they can relate. Most of them have no idea on photography. So they are not criticizing me. And it's given me so much more freedom to just do what I feel like doing instead of being overly critical. And I think sometimes it's good to take a step back and just shoot some photos for the love of it and stop criticizing. There's some obvious things. You don't want an overflowing trash can in the background. You don't want, a bright spot that's sort of blown out your highlights so you don't see half the face. But honestly, other than that, just sometimes it's good to just chill and remember that you love taking photos. Not everything is up for critique.
No, that's true. And I was thinking about that photo I just described, with a hole in the building. These days, if I were to use that for social media, I'd put like a graphic block of text or something over it. You'd never know there was a hole there in the photo.
Yep.
And all you would see is the model looking at with a perfect expression and beautiful light on her face.
Yes.
So there's a way to work through even you can kind of criticize yourself with some of the mistakes you make. So when you're editing it in Lightroom, you're trying to decide what your keepers are and what you're going to discard. I haven't discarded that one because I like the photo, but also realize now it's a usable photo if you use it as a graphic element, and then you can just kind of put some text, not just text, but like a text box over it.
Yes.
And that way you can share your message and the model can support the message. And it works very nicely that way.
It does.
You don't really have that many photos in your Lightroom catalog right now then.
No, I don't think I've ever looked inside my Lightroom catalog, so I'm assuming I Same there.
And,
I am just so chilled out because I take photos. I want to get better. I set myself challenges. Seasonally something will come up and I'll go through a stage where I want to improve and work on something or learn how to master something. But I really take photos because I love it. And I tend to shun the tech. I say this carefully. I sometimes tend to shun all the technical aspects of things, not just the technicalities, but you can get very caught up in stats.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about on previous shows, like creative side versus the technical side. And the downside of me for the technical side is I've spent money on a couple of disk arrays to save all these photos that I'm never going to look at, really, or never going to process. And yet the reason that I don't go back and delete them is because there's always something else that's more important to do. The idea of going back and saying, I really need to go look for the photos that I hate and I'm going to delete takes time and effort, and it's not the most important thing to do.
Also, I think you get to a point where you reach a certain volume of things in your library where you know that there is absolutely no way to go back and fix what's done. And I think the way forward is if you're going to change your workflow from that point and just accept that the other stuff is there. There's a difference between trying to go through 2,000 images and 20,000 images. When you've got 20,000, forget it. Just make a new start point and change the way you do things if you want to do so.
Well, I've got tens of thousands of images in my Lightroom catalog, and it's flowing very nicely. I know how to find the ones I want because of the keywording that I do.
Yes.
And it's very easy to do. I'm still got a bunch of out there that I'm probably never going to see the light of day outside of that catalog.
But then the reality is because you have a different purpose for your photos, you are more likely of the two of us to actually want to go and revisit some old photos and then maybe import and process them.
Oh, that's the way I work. Just because I've imported something and marked it as something I want to process doesn't mean I'm going to process it right now. I may not process it for a year or two.
That's right. But I tend not to do that because I also know that's also because I know myself. I don't go back and look back into unfinished things. So the things that are most important to me or necessary to me for a specific project, I deal with them at the time.
I take photos for what I need at the moment, but also I'll take some for someday. And I don't know if someday will ever come. But I mean, that goes everything from background photos to texture photos to little details or just a model with, different kind of poses or something like that. I never know if I'm going to need this or not, but I thought if I'm there and I've got the opportunity, let's take the shot. And if I ever need it one day, I can go back and say, oh, there, I've got the model with green eyes and a blue hat or whatever it may be.
See, that makes sense to me. And honestly, if I were taking photos like you do, you're into a different kind of photography and for different purposes. And if I were doing that, my workflow would be different. That's the reality. So I don't think it's so much there's a right or wrong way, but there is an appropriate way and a suitable way for you that fits what you're doing at any given time. And that most of the time, I think that will change over time.
Well, I agree with that. And that's why I don't really believe in a one-size-fits-all workflow, because not everybody has the same needs. If you had to go through all the stuff that a lot of photographers are going through with how you import, how you keyword, how you make up these collections and so forth, you wouldn't want to bother with it all. You'd probably just rather use your iPhone and be done with it.
I agree. When I started using Lightroom, I loved the software. I still do. But I used a book. I did everything the way I was supposed to do, the technically correct way. And after a while, I thought, I hate this.
Yeah.
But when I looked at it, I thought, I love Lightroom. This is of no benefit to me. It's taking a huge amount of time and it's a chore. So I stopped doing it. I have had no regrets to this point. Maybe I will someday.
I don't think you will.
But honestly, where I am with photography now versus where I was when I started doing it, I'm not likely to miss anything that was there from that point.
No, I don't think you're going to miss it at all. I think you found a workflow that works for you, and you at least realize that, I don't need this, and it's not going to hurt me to do without it. There's so many people that have been taught this is the one true way of doing Lightroom management, and that's not the case.
Well, I think it's easy also to look at a photographer that you admire and you think, well, they're very successful, however you choose to define success. You admire their work, you appreciate their style. And then it's natural to look and see how they do things.
It is.
But they might be, they probably using photography in a different way and for a different purpose than what you are, and possibly at a different level. Their workflow has to be different for what they're doing. And theirs might not even be the best way for what they're doing. It might just be what they're good at.
I don't even think of it as necessary as a level. I've seen a lot of amateur photographers that are just as good as a lot of professional photographers, in some cases better. That much I know. But they don't necessarily have the same need or drive to go off and do a catalog shoot or to shoot a sports event or a concert event and then have to send things off to a wire service. They don't need to do the same things.
I agree.
So what you need to do with your photos, I think, should dictate how you manage Lightroom.
Yep. All I'm saying is don't be intimidated or feel pressurized because somebody else does something a different way. The right way to do things is the way that works for you.
That sounds good to me, and we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for listening to us on the Photo Flunky Show. As I said before at the beginning, show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 65, and you can get a transcript of the show there for free. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Blueberry, Stitcher Radio, whatever you want. The links are going to be on the show notes and also available at photoflunky.com. And, there's something we haven't asked in a long time. We've been doing this for 65 shows now? I would really appreciate it if you would go to iTunes and give us a review. Tell us what you think, but leave a review down there so that way other people who are looking for photography shows and discovery have something to find out.
Yeah, so that they can know that you like us.
And if you don't, let us know that too. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.